Okay. What has been Russia's role on the northern border of Syria is the first question that I asked ChatGPT. Responded, Russia's played a significant role in the northern border of Syria, particularly in the ongoing Syrian conflict. Since 2015, Russia's been one of the key supporters of. Let's see if I can make this a bit bigger without having to scroll sideways. Since 2015, Russia has been one of the key supporters of the Syrian government in the conflict, providing military, economic, and diplomatic assistance to President Bashar al-Assad's regime. In the northern border region of Syria, Russia has been involved in various ways. For example, in 2019, Russia and Turkey reached a deal to establish a demilitarized zone in the province of Idlib, Russia and Turkey reached a deal on Syrian land, it says here. Which borders Turkey. The deal aimed to prevent a potential military operation by the Syrian government forces and their allies against the opposition-held region, which could have triggered a humanitarian crisis and a new wave of refugees. Moreover, Russia's been working closely with the Syrian government to reclaim control over territories held by various opposition groups, including those on the northern border. In 2018, Russia-backed Syrian forces recaptured the city of Afrin from Kurdish forces, which was previously controlled by the U.S.-backed Syrian Democratic Forces. Furthermore, Russia has been involved in negotiations between the Syrian government and Kurdish forces, which control several areas on the northern border. Russia sought to facilitate a peaceful resolution to the conflict between the two sides, which has been ongoing since the Syrian government withdrew from the region in 2012. Overall, Russia's role on the northern border of Syria has been complex and multifaceted, as it's been working to balance its interests. Next, I asked, please give further detail regarding the control of border crossings, like but not limited to Bab al-Salam and Bab al-Hawa. The Bab al-Salam and Bab al-Hawa border crossings are two of the main crossings on the northern border of Syria. These crossings have been of great strategic importance for various actors in the Syrian conflict, including the Syrian government, opposition groups, and international aid organizations. During the early stages of the Syrian conflict, the Bab al-Salam and Bab al-Hawa crossings were controlled by the Syrian government. However, as the conflict intensified, various opposition groups gained control of the crossings, allowing them to smuggle weapons, supplies, and fighters into Syria from Turkey. These crossings also became important for the delivery of humanitarian aid to opposition-held areas. In 2016, the Syrian government, with the support of, and I stopped. Before going further, let me reword that. Please give further detail regarding, but not limited to, Russia's role in the control of border crossings. Like, but not limited to, Bab al-Salam and Bab al-Hawa. Sure, I apologize for misunderstanding your question earlier, it says. Regarding Russia's role in the control of border crossings like Bab al-Salam and Bab al-Hawa, it's important to note that Russia has been supportive of the Syrian government's efforts to regain control of these crossings. So Russia is supporting Syria here. The Syrian government has sought to reassert control over these crossings, to curtail the smuggling of weapons and supplies to opposition forces, and to limit the flow of foreign fighters into Syria. Yeah, so this idea that someone other than Russia is controlling these, maybe the UN. In 2020, the Syrian government, with the backing of Russian forces, launched a major military campaign to retake the Idlib province, which includes Bab al-Salam and Bab al-Hawa. The campaign was successful in recapturing several strategic towns and villages, including Sarakeb, which is located on the M5 highway that connects Damascus to Aleppo and which runs through Bab al-Hawa. So Bab al-Hawa runs through Sarakeb. As part of the campaign, the Syrian government sought to regain control over the Bab al-Hawa crossing, which is a key transit point for humanitarian aid and supplies coming into opposition-held areas of Syria from Turkey. The crossing is under the control of the opposition-backed Syrian Salvation Government, which has been accused by the Syrian government and its allies of misappropriating aid and funds intended for civilians. While the Syrian government and Russia have not yet succeeded in retaking Bab al-Hawa, their campaign has put pressure on the opposition forces controlling the crossing, and it remains a key objective for the Syrian government and its allies. So, to say that it's controlled by opposition forces means that it's controlled by Turkey for the most part. Everything that is not controlled by Russia and, in effect, Syria, the Syrian government backed by Russia, is controlled by, it's said, opposition forces or terrorists, or use some derogatory term, but it's actually the puppets of Turkey. However, the situation at the border remains fluid, and it's possible that the control of the crossing could shift again in the future depending on the dynamics of the conflict. This is great, thank you. Please detail this border issue from the perspective of the SSG. It mentioned the Syrian Salvation Government earlier. It's a political entity formed by opposition groups in Syria's northwestern Idlib province in 2017. You could substitute Turkey for opposition groups, actually, it seems at this point. I mean, maybe not all of them are Turkey supported, but the ones that in this area that are being referenced to, including HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Shams, seem to be backed by Turkey. The SSG operates in opposition-held areas and seeks to provide governance and service to the population in those areas. This group's been backed by Turkey and has been instrumental in providing aid and assistance to civilians affected by the conflict. The Bab al-Hawa border crossing has been under the control of the SSG since 2015, and the group has used the crossing to import humanitarian aid, medical supplies, and other goods into opposition-held areas. The SSG has accused the Syrian government and its allies, including Russia, of attempting to seize control of the crossing, to cut off aid to opposition-held areas, and weaken the opposition.
We have the evidence. No one can dispute the evidence. We heard the evidence. We saw the evidence.
The SSG has been vocal in its opposition to the Syrian government's military campaign to retake the Idlib province, which has been ongoing since 2020. The group has accused the Syrian government and Russia of targeting civilians and using indiscriminate forces in their military options. The SSG has also accused the Syrian government of seeking to use the humanitarian crisis in the region as a weapon of war by blocking aid deliveries to opposition-held areas. The SSG has been critical of the United Nations for its role in facilitating cross-border aid deliveries through the Bab al-Hawa crossing in 2021. The UN Security Council voted to reduce the number of aid access points from 4 to 2, with the Bab al-Hawa crossing remain one of the 2 access points. The SSG has argued that the reduction in aid access points would lead to a humanitarian catastrophe in opposition-held areas, and has called on the international community to support its efforts to maintain control of the crossing. Overall, from the perspective of the SSG, control of the Bab al-Hawa crossing is crucial for providing aid and assistance to civilians in opposition-held areas, and any attempt to seize control of the crossing would be seen as an attempt to weaken the opposition and worsen the humanitarian crisis. So how is the common popular sentiment of opening the border crossings for aid, etc., not identical to the position of the SSG? In a sense, and this is probably dangerous for the Russian government and other governments in the area who don't want to see Turkey and the SSG in control, it probably is not really positive for the rest of the world to know that, but that seems to be the truth, that the rest of the world is in alignment with the SSG here. Besides Bab al-Hawa, what was the other access point at the Security Council allowed? There was a mention up here about Bab al-Hawa being one of the 2 access points, and Bab al-Salam is the other. The access point that the UN Security Council allowed for cross-border aid deliveries into Syria in 2021, in addition to Bab al-Hawa, is the Bab al-Salam crossing on the Turkish-Syrian border. I wish that ChatGPT would find some way to make those connections. The question that I asked earlier was, in reference to Bab al-Hawa and Bab al-Salam. And then it didn't give that information in the answer. It just gave, it explained how Bab al-Hawa played a role in it significantly, but forgot to mention Bab al-Salam. Maybe forgot, I don't know if that's the correct answer. But Bab al-Salam, or the correct terminology, Bab al-Salam is located to the east of Bab al-Hawa, it says here, near the city of Azaz, and it was under the control of the opposition groups until 2016, when it was recaptured by the Syrian government forces with the support of Russia. The crossing has since been reopened and serves as a transit point for humanitarian and commercial goods coming into Syria from Turkey. The Bab al-Salam crossing has been seen as a less critical access point for aid deliveries compared to Bab al-Hawa, as it's located further from the conflict zone. It's been subject to restrictions on the types of goods that can be transported across the border. Nonetheless, the UN has used the crossing to deliver aid and assistance to civilians in need in opposition-held areas, and its continued operation has been seen as important for maintaining some level of humanitarian access into Syria. The next question I asked was, what 4 access points were accessible before 2021? Please detail the UN Security Council voting to reduce the number of aid access points from 4 to 2. And it says, before 2021, there were 4 border crossings that the UN had been authorized to use for cross-border aid deliveries into Syria. In addition to the Bab al-Salam and Bab al-Hawa crossings, the other 2 crossings were al-Yarubiyah. The crossing is on the Syria-Iraq border, and it's been used to deliver aid into northeast Syria. And it was under the control of the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces and had been authorized by the UN Security Council in 2014. This is really pro-UN, if I'm not mistaken. And then Al-Ramtha, crossing on the Syrian-Jordan border, and had been used to deliver aid into southern Syria. It was authorized by UN Security Council in 2014 as well. However, in 2020, Russia and China vetoed a proposal to renew the mandate for cross-border aid deliveries through both the Al-Yarubiyah and Al-Ramtha crossings, leaving only the Bab al-Salam and Bab al-Hawa crossings as access points for cross-border aid deliveries into Syria. Then in July 2021, the UN Security Council voted to renew the mandate for cross-border and deliveries into Syria, but with a reduced number of access points. As a result of the vote, the mandate was extended for another year until July 2022, but only the Bab al-Salam and Bab al-Hawa crossings were authorized for cross-border aid deliveries. So the UN is in control of these. The UN Security Council is in control of these by way of, there have been some dissenting votes by a couple of countries, mainly the ones that we're discussing here. The decision to reduce the number of access points was a contentious one, with some countries arguing that it would limit humanitarian access to Syria and worsen the humanitarian crisis in the country. So the UN, for the most part, was probably pro having these border crossings open, but others, including Russia, argue that the situation in Syria has improved and that the Syrian government should be given greater control over aid deliveries into the country. Ultimately, the decision to reduce the number of access points was seen as a compromise that allowed for some level of cross-border aid deliveries to continue, while also taking into account the concerns of those who argued for greater control over aid deliveries by the Syrian government. So that happened in July 2021, so it's been almost 2 years since that. That's a pivotal point, especially relative to where we are now with Syria having aid be the priority at this moment. The SSG is backed by Turkey and the Syrian government is backed by Russia. This is the question. And ChatGPT pretext answers, yes, that's correct. The Syrian opposition, including the SSG Syrian Salvation Government, is primarily backed by Turkey, which has provided military and other support to opposition groups fighting against the Syrian government. Turkey's been involved in the Syrian conflict since 2011 and has supported various opposition groups in their fight against the Syrian government. On the other hand, the Syrian government is backed by Russia, which has been its key ally in the conflict. Since 2015, Russia has provided military support to the Syrian government, including air support, which has helped the government regain territory from opposition groups. It's worth noting that it's ChatGPT pretext there. Have Turkey and Russia considered any negotiations? This is my question. Have Turkey and Russia considered any negotiations or had any discussions regarding this issue? Yes, ChatGPT responds. Turkey and Russia have been involved in negotiations and discussions regarding the situation in Syria.
We have the evidence. No one can dispute the evidence. We heard the evidence. We saw the evidence.
Turkey and Russia support opposing sides in the conflict, yet they've sought to cooperate on certain issues in order to reduce tensions and help bring an end to the conflict. In March 2020, for example, Turkey and Russia reached an agreement to establish a ceasefire in the northwestern Syria province of Idlib, which had been the scene of intense fighting between Turkish-backed opposition forces and the Syrian government forces backed by Russia. The ceasefire helped to reduce the level of violence in the area and avert a potentially catastrophic humanitarian crisis. In addition, Turkey and Russia have been involved in negotiations regarding the Bab al-Hawa crossing, which is the key access point for cross-border aid deliveries into Syria. And we'll have some footage on Bab al-Hawa a little later. In June 2021, Turkish and Russian officials held talks to discuss the future of the crossing amid concerns that its closure could worsen the humanitarian situation in Syria. While the talks did not result in a resolution to the issue, they signaled that both Turkey and Russia recognize the importance of humanitarian access to Syria and are willing to engage in a dialogue to address the issue. Overall, while Turkey and Russia